Welcome to another installment of, I guess it's an evening round with Greggy Biscuits here in the OTB studios. A special guest here, left-handed disc golfer, commentator extraordinaire, scholar, Brian Earhart.
What's up, man? That was quite the intro.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm trying to improve my intros. I feel like I've maybe been selling a few of our guests short. It's usually just like one superlative, but you're a man of many superlatives, so
Thank you, man.
happy to spread the love around. I got two beverages with me. Are you beverage full?
My beverage full right now. Oh man, now that the tour is sponsored by Yerba Mate, we have like a case and a half in here. I don't think I'm going to be drinking that.
You probably don't want to crush a yerb right now.
It's not Yerb time, that's for sure. It's about
No,
8
it's not
p.m.
Sunday. It's not Sunday night, and you don't have to drive 6 to 12
Yes,
hours. Yeah.
yes. So yeah, I'm all
Uh,
good. If I need a drink of water, I'll let you know.
all right. You're a man. You're around. Give the people an update. Where are you right now?
I am in Jonesboro, Arkansas. We are in kind of a cool little downtown area. There's actually like a lot of restaurants here. There's a couple coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
One surprisingly good coffee shop. I didn't expect that from Jonesboro. Yeah, it's like a nice little walkable area, and there's 24-hour parking lot like behind one of the blocks. So we've been here. There's actually a few RVs in this lot. One of the RVs where the Swedes and Finns are staying is
Okay.
here.
Nice.
James Conrad and his partner are here. Kevin Jones was here last night. It's rare to find 24-hour parking that's like advertised as park here as long as you want. It's a
Well,
little strange, but I'm not mad.
Well, as a person who lives van life, as you do, you learn to seek out parking. You learn to seek out places to bathe. You know, all these
Definitely.
things. You've been doing the commentary now for 2 seasons, right?
Live commentary. This is my second full season doing it, and then I did one tournament in 2021, I believe, at the very end. Yeah.
But then basically on the road since 2018 or so.
Beginning of 2018. Yep. That was when I first went full time living out of my car. So this is year 6, maybe? Something like that. It's been a while.
And what were you cruising around in back in the day?
I had this hilarious fiasco when I saved up all this money. I like moved home. I got a new job that was closer to home, saved up all this money, and I bought an RV for myself. It's actually the same one that Philo travels in.
Okay.
It's like a Class B, like Coachman. It was like 1997. It only had like 90,000 miles, and I bought it in cash, which huge red flag. I didn't know anything about buying cars back then. The guy was nice, answered all my questions. I asked all the wrong questions, so he answered them freely.
Perfectly.
So I thought
Yeah.
he was a good guy. The RV at least worked when I drove it, and then I took it home and it instantly died. It was a complete lemon, and he like scammed me pretty much. And I lost $9,500 on the spot. Biggest regret of my entire life. And this was like a week before I was going on tour.
Not exactly the
Um,
step forward you were planning on.
no, it was absolutely miserable, but I'm so happy it happened because um, I ended up traveling in my Buick. I just packed up my Buick and I said, I'll figure it out. And because of that, I had to do a lot of what the old touring professionals had to do
Mm-hmm.
that didn't have the contracts to buy RVs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go to the courses and meet locals and play leagues and ask questions about like who's a reputable person and who has a spot for me to stay. And I met so many good people that year, and I made so many good friends through that. AJ Risley, my best friend on the tour, um,
Mm-hmm.
I met because of living out of my Buick that year. So I think that forced me to really get out and see the world instead of kind of holing up in my crappy RV that ended up being awful. So blessing in disguise, but that's what I was in. It was an '05 Buick LaCrosse, and I absolutely love the vehicle. And I actually, funny story real quick, I ended up selling the Buick when I was building my van, and I ended up selling it without knowing to the guy that wrapped the rackets, they custom wrapped the rackets for Roger Federer and Serena Williams.
Interesting. He's a pro
Those,
racket rapper.
yep, He worked for Wilson at their test facility. It was crazy. He like took me on a tour just to buy my Buick. He was like whining and dining me. It was very, very cool.
Well, I guess it's a little bit of a flip side of the other buying experience. But so are you telling me that you sold your lemon to Philo, or he just has the same model?
No, he actually has a working model. No,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I did
okay.
not scam Philo. I don't think he's foolish like that. I donated it to like it was some foundation that gives you a big tax write off, to sell your junk vehicle or like donate the junk vehicle. So I didn't even sell it. I couldn't get what I wanted for it, so I just
Mm,
donated it for
Cars for
what
Kids or something of the
something
ilk.
like that. Yeah, and I got actually it was pretty good. What I got in a tax write off was a pretty good deal compared to how crappy the vehicle was.
So you're in the Buick, you're traveling around,
Mhm.
and this is gets to a point that I wanted to ask you. So again, you're meeting all these disc golf communities, which
Mhm.
was a cool byproduct of traveling around, following the pro
Yeah.
tour. Is again, you get to see these places that maybe you only hear about, or maybe you never hear about, or maybe you had never had any expectations for. So,
Mhm.
what are a couple that are highlighted on your kind of life disc golf tour? Where do you like to go? What places?
Mm.
Because again, you're from the Chicago area.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
And so
Um,
yeah, so where around the country where you maybe didn't expect it, but where do you like to travel through these days?
what blew me away when I traveled for the first time, Northern California and the drive from there all the way up the one into Oregon, blew
Hmm.
me away. It was really cool, and I felt really alive doing that stretch because, um, I mostly was tent camping. If I couldn't find a place to stay, I could convince somebody to let me tent camp in their yard. So I
Hmm.
was just in a solo, like one person, tent. Um, I don't know, and it was just really kind of like the opposite, kind of the counterbalance to the life I lived before, which was very stationary and very stressful and
Mm.
the opposite of doing what I want to do with my time. So it was really cool to just have nothing to worry about except going, playing disc golf. Well, kind of. I had a shoulder injury very early on, but that that didn't bother me so much because of how free I felt, traveling in that stretch because it's so different than Chicagoland. It's so flat and dreary and humid and
Hmm.
you're driving up through the redwoods and it's just your brain is melting and falling out of your ears doing that drive. I mean, you've done it. You know, like it's amazing.
One of the best drives in the country for sure, and amazing connection with the trees up there. And I
Yeah.
mean, driving all over different parts of California, driving through like parts of Utah. I mean, America has got some spectacular New
Hmm.
Mexico, you know,
Yes.
and I'm always surprised being out there
Yeah, there's a
what you're
lot
gonna
of
run into.
places. I mean, man, I just even going up north, like traveling through Minnesota and traveling through northern Wisconsin and like yeah, you kind of get this deep appreciation for Earth, and you realize like how small your little bubble was where you grew up and where you used to play disc golf. It was really that first year was a very humbling, eye-opening experience, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people that do this kind of thing.
And you mentioned like kind of changing your lifestyle. What were you doing before you decided to go on the road pro disc golf
Yeah,
style?
I I was playing a lot of disc golf, but I was working full time. It's like this crazy series of events. I had a few different jobs in a short period of time, and I was
Hmm.
living in the town as a kind of like a townie of the town I graduated college from in Central Illinois, and I was just going nowhere, not making a lot of money. To the point where disc golf earnings were helping me pay rent, and like
Hmm.
that lifestyle just started to feel bad, like having to go to leagues to cover the rent and pay for groceries and there were some times when I really was shocked at how little money I could keep in my bank account. And I really didn't have that frivolous of spending habits. I wasn't like a big drinker or party or anything like that. I just didn't have enough money working hourly. So I
Hmm.
I read a book um, called The Alchemist that a lot of people know about, and I read it at the right time, and it really inspired me to take control of what I wanted. So I reached out to my buddy Roman, who was working at a tech startup company called Revenue Well, and it was very close to where I grew up in Vernon Hills, Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
up by the border of Wisconsin. And I said, hey Roman, like I need a new job. I need to make some more money. I'm gonna go on tour, and I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I'm gonna do it. And he's like, we could get you into tech support, no problem. He's like, I think you're good enough with people to where you can fake it till you make it, learn the software, and you'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. And I ended up getting a job, and I felt really happy because I told the company like what my passion was. I told them that I love disc golf and that potentially one day I will be going on tour, and they just loved that. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
probably spoke to their entrepreneurial spirit, talking to me. And so I got the job, worked there for 2.5, 3 years, something like that. And I just lived at home and saved aggressively. And my parents were okay with me doing that as long as I had a goal and a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and I did that. So I worked tech support and did webinars and taught people how to use this software. And I was good at it. I was really good at it. And I remember they offered me like a promotion at some point, and I had this vision of making more money
Mm-hmm.
and staying home and not going on tour. And then I had to fight it and like cut it out. And like I still went. And the RV thing was definitely a setback and made me think about staying home forever. But
Right.
um, funny enough, in the book that I read, there was a line that says like the closer you get to achieving your dreams, or in the book, it's fulfilling your destiny, the louder the obstacles become. And that was my big obstacle, was that stupid RV thing. But
Right.
yeah, man. So that's what I did. I worked in like the tech industry for like the dental world, actually. So that's what I did.
Nice. And now fast forward, you've shifted over to the mostly working in the commentary booth. I
Yeah.
know you played some tournaments last year. Any tournaments on the schedule this year, or is it full commentary?
No, I don't think I played any last year. Maybe some like small tournaments. I really don't think I played any in 2022. My last one that I remember was USDGC 2021.
Okay.
Um,
So
and
two
I
so
don't.
2 years removed.
Yeah, I might have played like an unsanctioned event here or there, but I don't think so. I went really full force into the next decision in my life because I knew that in order to get where I wanted to go, I had to do that. I couldn't just keep doing both, playing
Mm-hmm.
average disc golf and doing average commentary. I just didn't want to do that anymore.
Well, I wouldn't say you've done much average commentary. It's always been really excellent. I've enjoyed your
Thank
work
you.
so far. We love having it on at the shop. Recently, you got to be in the lead chair, right? Like,
Yeah,
was
I
that
got to
last
do
week?
play by play. Yeah, with Perkins.
Yeah, it was cool. How did that feel?
Great. To me, it felt good that they trusted me to take that job, because if you think about how many play-by-play guys we've had over the years, it's not many. It's
No.
Terry, Ian, and Charlie sometimes, and I
Hmm.
think that's it. So I
In
felt
terms
very
of like the
honored
big
that.
voices in disc golf, yeah, yeah,
Well, yeah, the guys doing play-by-play for the live broadcast. That's what I
correct,
mean.
yeah.
Like the rest is all color guys, like that shift, throughout. And the teams are starting to solidify, but I just felt grateful that they trusted me enough to be able to run with that, because I was filling in for somebody. That wasn't like on the schedule originally. I took that job, and I said, hey, me and Perkins have done 2 years of post production, and we work well together. Just like,
Hmm.
pull the on course guy. We don't need him, and me and him can just do it. And it worked out. I think it went great, and it just made me really happy. And it was a good feeling of recognition. I think that they just thought I was good enough to do that.
So obviously, you talked about your kind of job experience. Did you have broadcasting experience from school or
No,
your education before that? No.
no. I originally went to school for phys ed because I had this plan. I wanted to be a gym teacher for little kids, and then in the summers I'd tour for disc golf. And then college happened and life happened, and I got older, and I almost, not flunked out, but I almost dropped out of school because of some things that happened. And I tried to grunt it out and graduate. So I got a degree in Parks and Recreation Management. And, that degree was like not substantial at all. There was really, it was just like the experience of getting an internship was was all you really got from that degree program. You probably could do more with it, but I didn't. So
Hmm.
my experience in broadcasting comes from my friends that I grew up playing disc golf with,
Mm-hmm.
and the way we spoke about the game. Growing up with my
Mm-hmm.
younger brother, who's a huge stats guy, baseball nerd, and he was also, he was almost 1030 rated at one point as well, a
Mm-hmm.
couple years ago. So me and him just grew up, loving the technical side of all sports. My dad, almost went pro in baseball when he was younger, and so the way that he talks about sports is very technical and very like analytical and not necessarily just about the competition. So that's where that's where my broadcasting experience comes from, is just chatting with my friends and my family about sports pretty much.
And they're in the Chicagoland area. So, what were your teams growing up?
What were my sports teams?
Yeah.
I was a huge Bulls fan. Obviously, I grew up in the '90s when Jordan was a thing, and that was
Yep.
extremely exciting. I remember having my Bulls jerseys, my Rodman and my Michael Jordan, and all. That was a sweet time to
Your
be a
BJ
sports fan.
Armstrong,
My
your
friend had a
Steve
BJ
Kerr,
Armstrong jersey, yeah, and
your Horace Grant,
my grandpa's favorite player was Kukoc.
your Bison
Um,
Dele. Rest in
we,
peace.
we had we had some shooters on that team, and I that was the most nostalgic thing for me growing up, was watching Michael Jordan as like a little kid, first grade, second grade, going
Mm-hmm.
to Bulls games was just electric. I will never forget how like absolutely packed those games were
Oh,
back then.
Chicago
And then
Stadium games, right? Pre United Center.
man, I couldn't tell you what we went to. I was so young. I
I think
hadn't really been to a.
the first three championships I think are at the old arena, and then they moved to the United Center.
I only remember going. Man, I don't know. It was so long ago; it's hard for me to even recall back. But I know my dad's work used to get tickets, and we used to go, and it was a blast. And
Well, they had a
um,
sellout streak for years, many seasons,
it was
consecutive
amazing.
sellouts. Yeah.
I just remember being swallowed up by people, and we used to go to all the Chicago sports team, sports games. We used to go to Sox games at Comiskey before it got sold out. We used to go to
Mm-hmm.
Cub games at Wrigley Field all the time, and never Bears games. I was never a football fan. My dad's a huge sports fan, but I
Mm-hmm.
just come from a sports family. Again, my dad was a huge baseball player. He's a huge golf fan. My mom played golf in college. So the talk growing up was always about sports, and then because my mom comes from a golf family, it's always sports psychology as well because of how mental golf is, and
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, I mean, we
When did
always were
disc golf
talking
come into
about
the
sports.
fold?
For
When did disc
me,
golf come into the fold?
when I was like 10, I
Okay.
found frisbee myself. So frisbee, we had a toy frisbee in the garage. I was a very imaginative kid. I fell in love with it. Disc golf, I didn't find disc golf until a few years later. And it was just because I fell in love with throwing a frisbee. It kind of became my favorite toy. I remember doing
Mm-hmm.
it in PE class, and there was some adapted version of disc golf, and I really was like, the memory still sticks with me doing it for the first time. I still remember how long a couple of the holes were for some reason, because it really hit me really hard. But when I first played disc golf, I was 13, and my dad and I would go out before the Bears games on Sundays and go play. And
Mm-hmm.
it only took me a couple times to figure out how they flew, and my dad got frustrated trying to throw them, so he stopped playing, and then I kept going with it. We had a field across the street from our house, and at that point, my first job that I got was so I could get money to buy more discs, and I got that job pretty quickly after I found disc golf. So it was off to
Mm-hmm.
the races after that. It just captured my imagination, and the golf part came later for me. It was just the frisbee that really hooked me.
Yeah, just into the flight, into throwing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
And it's nice that you got into it at a young age too. Like we see a lot
Hmm.
of these guys who are prodigies now, playing from 7, 8, 9 years old, and
For
just always
sure.
with the disc in their hand, and you see incredible things are happening.
It's awesome. It's really, really cool to watch people like Calvin, or, someone like Isaac Robinson, who just won a major, whose dad
Mm-hmm.
said that he was pushing them around in a stroller on the course when they were little kids because he played
Mm-hmm.
disc golf. And it's cool to see parents like gently nudge their kids towards disc golf too, not just like say, hey, you can play with me if you want, but actually like, how some parents treat their kids with baseball or basketball or something growing up, like actually telling them, hey, you could take this seriously if you want. It's kind of cool.
Right, and then becoming more and more popular, more and more courses spreading across the country. as we see programs like Edge or Uplay,
Mhm.
getting the curriculum into the PE teachers' hands. So it's pretty cool
Yes.
to see it go. You mentioned a couple of those MPO studs. What are some of these trends we're seeing here in the first? We're about to pass, I guess, the 1/3 mark. We're not quite to the
Mhm.
halfway mark, but we're churning through the season. We've seen some really great performances from Calvin, Gandenber, obviously. Simon's gotten his wins. The obvious dominance on the FPO side from Kristen Tatar. Talk a
Mhm.
little bit about that. What early trends we've seen here in the first kind of quarter of the season.
Yeah, so what I'm noticing is because the competition is more intense than it's ever been, even on the silver events. Calvin actually made a note today about how the silver events are stressful because of how tough the field is. Um, we're having more players than ever that are getting the confidence to win tournaments.
Right.
And
Right.
when you go on the tour, it's hard to believe that you're going to win. It's hard to even have that self confidence. You go on the tour and you think you got it. And then you kind
Mm-hmm.
of get swallowed up and you're like, wow, I just played my best stuff and I got 20th. And it's easy to lose that. So now I feel like we have more people than ever that don't think that way. We have more people that are like, I'm the best player here. I'm capable of
Mm-hmm.
shooting 14 under par that final round and winning the tournament from the third card, you know? So that's the theme that I'm seeing. I mean, everyone's good. Everyone's been good, but there's just there's a different feeling because of how close some of these big deals are now. It's like I think the
Mm-hmm.
industry is like, okay, we got Ricky, we got Paul. You know, they're in their 30s. You know, they're getting older. Who's next?
Mm-hmm.
Who's our next? You know, culture defining athlete. And there's a lot of people that are like, that's me, and that's gonna be me. I'm gonna take the torch from them, and I'm gonna run with it. Yuli used to call Climo and Felberg and those guys dinosaurs. And he said he had a little crew back in the day when he was starting out, and he called themselves the dinosaur hunters, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we have our new set of dinosaur hunters, so to speak, that are coming in trying to set a new bar. And it's pretty impressive to watch.
Yeah, now that you've been in the sport, for over a decade, you've kind of spanned a little bit of generations. And I was thinking about this the other day: is like, what wave of disc golf are we in, right?
Hmm.
Because you have like the very early wave, the steady ed wave, and
Hmm.
then you have that kind of like building up on a local grassroots level, getting into the late '80s, early '90s, where you started to see like regional tournaments that drew nationally, right? Like reading the Stokely book, you hear about how the kind of information trickled out to be like, oh, you could go
Hmm.
play this, tournament in Colorado, or you could go play this tournament in Texas, or you could go play this tournament,
Hmm.
and the money's good. And like you're talking about, uh, and it's interesting to see how certain things don't change with the organic nature of relationship building and
Hmm.
how it takes people obviously to run the tournament, play in the
Hmm.
tournament, sustain the tournament, and as these areas kind of grow up, it's a testament to where the sport's at. So where would you say we're at? Are we in like kind of the beginning of this fourth wave, I guess? If the second
Yeah.
wave is the '90s, the third wave is the Ulis, the Nate Dosses, the young Paul Macbeths, and then now we're getting into this generation that's been inspired by those
Hmm.
players, right?
Yeah, and one of my passions, and I don't know how to really like quantify it, but I guess it's both witnessing how like sports and culture evolve, and
Mm-hmm.
also I like being a part of making a sport or a culture of a sport evolve. And
I,
I think, go ahead.
well, I guess what I'm thinking is like to your point earlier, you have this bigger pool of talent, and it's
Hmm.
playing for a bigger kind of slice than ever before,
Yeah.
right? Because now we're talking about it doesn't take 10 years to build up this nest egg of tournament winnings, right?
Hmm.
You have a you have a good couple seasons. You can talk about some serious, you know,
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
money that you can earn, and then not to mention
So
the contracts, right? And because
of
all the
course.
companies are want to capitalize on that.
So this is an interesting thing to talk about because I think when Paul Macbeth signed the big deal, when he signed the
Hmm.
big deal for the first time, a new a new era ushered in. That's to
Mm-hmm.
me is a big mark on the timeline of disc golf. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's like, what wave it's a part of, so to speak, but I know a new chapter turned when he signed that deal, because then people said, "Wow, okay, he makes a
Mm-hmm.
cultural impact. He wins. He does kind of everything that you need to do to get that deal. He's culturally significant outside of disc golf. I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
get that now." But I'm always very careful, like when I watch disc golf and disc golf business, and uh, it's interesting looking at it from afar now that I'm not having to worry about it myself. Because esports was something that I think people thought was going to be huge forever and just continue climbing for the next two
Mm-hmm.
decades until venture capital realized, wow, there's really not a lot we can capitalize on. What do we sell? Some merchandise, and that's it. What do we do? We're not selling out arenas all the time. So, and
Mm-hmm.
esports is in a stage right now where they're having to figure out, where does our money come from?
Mm-hmm.
Is this worth it? So now I think disc golf is in a phase where it's like, is this worth it? Do we have to always have $1 million player on our roster? Or was that just good
Mm-hmm.
PR for golf in general? And then once that deal is up, do we need to do that again?
Mm-hmm.
What if we offer $500,000 to a player? They'll take that money. What if that's the thing that I'm thinking of right now. So I think we're in this like awkward teen phase where we're slowly getting out of the teen phase. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we're experimenting a lot and trying a bunch of new things. But we're gonna hit like a maturity point where the business gets figured out. And I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to know what you think. I don't know if we're gonna have too many more 10-year, $10 million deals. I don't think there's gonna be more of them, so to speak.
I mean, here's the question for you. I mean, did Paul make enough in that contract? I mean, don't you think he was probably worth more than that ultimately?
We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know because the industry didn't say he was worth more than that. Like, yeah, he
Right.
sold a lot of discs, but I always say, like, to younger players in disc golf, or just players trying to get their name out there more, if there's not a bidding war against you, like if there's not
Mm-hmm.
multiple companies trying to say what they'll give you, you're worth
Mm-hmm.
whatever that one company tells you you're worth. I don't care what you think. And
Right.
that's the thing about disc golf as a whole, is like, you have to fight for yourself, and we're still in a place where you have to do that. You have to focus on how you appear to the rest of the world, because in golf, apparently, if you get your PGA Tour card, I think you can tell, like, I think it's TaylorMade, that you'll hit one
Mm-hmm.
of their drivers, or Callaway, that you'll hit one of their drivers, and they'll pay you like 2 million on the spot just to hit one of their drivers, no matter what, because you have your tour card.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on the number, but I know, like those endorsement deals come quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're in a phase where it feels like, wow, I'm working so hard. Where's my instant endorsement? And I don't know. That's what I'm curious to see. Like, is that going to happen over time? Is disc golf going to scale to that point?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a part of it. I don't really know either way, but I still think we're an incredibly um, young sport, and I think we are in a very exciting time, because it's not
Mm-hmm.
like the people who got into it during COVID are like, "Oh, this game sucks now." There's probably some, but I think most people are like, "Yeah, this game is awesome," and we still
Right.
have record numbers, and spectator numbers are bigger than ever too. That's the other thing that blows me away. Is like, I always think we're stagnating, but then, oh, we sold 1,700 spectator tickets. Oh, we sold 2,000 spectator tickets. It's like, oh, okay,
Exactly.
never mind.
Yeah. I mean, with the contracts growing, and to answer your question, like, will we see more long-term deals like that? I don't think so. It's like there's a very special player. I think you're going to see more of a competitive kind of structure come from the manufacturers, more similar
Mhm.
to, like, from a player standpoint too. It's like you might want to renegotiate. You might not want to get locked into a
Mhm.
5-year deal, because again, everyone's just still understanding what the market's going to be, you know, as a
Yeah,
touring pro.
definitely.
It's nice to think that you could not rely just on tour winnings, though, and
Mhm.
still have the sustainability of growing the sport and being part of it, and be sustained by your, sponsorship money.
Yes, and I think there's going to always be companies that have spots like that for people, unless we start getting some real venture capital involved, and then
Which I guess
who
is now we've
knows?
seen, right? We've seen this kind of
Yeah.
happen with DD, and so we'll see how the money moves around. I think that was all kind of a development that happened post Ricky, post Kona last year in terms of like big notable signings, but there's some big names floating around there still.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see. You just never know who's going to fall in love with disc golf. That's the thing. Like Dylan Cease, that guy might win the Cy Young this year, and he
Mm-hmm.
loves disc golf so much. Like
Mm-hmm.
he could very well 10 years into his career be like, I have enough money. I'm just going to build disc golf courses now. I'm just going to build championship facilities. Like we don't know. Like that happened to bowling a while back. There's a documentary that the
Mm-hmm.
PDGA made me watch when I interned for them in 2012 called League of Ordinary Gentlemen, and it talks about how these guys from Microsoft bought the PBA when it was struggling, and they
Hmm.
turned it into the sport that got on ESPN and had a real golden era for quite some time. And bowling prize money is still way bigger than disc golf. So
Bowling still
yeah.
very popular. Still very popular here at OTB Discs. In fact, we've got some
Oh
two-handed
yeah, are you a
bowlers
bowler?
on the staff. No, but you throw some stones, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I really like bowling. I actually just got a new ball a few months ago before tour started.
Well, these guys actually won their league. First time in the league,
Nice.
took it down. It's Double A, Jer, Kyle, and Mark. Were on the
Sweet.
Slickery Space Pins. So shout out to the Space Pins for taking it down. But yeah,
Right on.
no, we have to try and get some bowling in. It's a popular sport here in Stockton. Just
Cool.
part of the rich cultural fabric of the San Joaquin Valley. Um,
Love that.
speaking of cultural impact, when did you first pick up a guitar?
When I was like 13,
Oh, so
13 or
similar
14.
lifespan to the disc golf life.
Yeah, I
Frisbee a little bit earlier, but yeah.
yeah, but I think I just I just did a lot of stuff when I was a kid. I just did a
Mm-hmm.
lot of playing. I didn't like try to master anything. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really loved running around with my friends and goofing around, and I didn't have the attention span to focus on anything. Um, it's still, it's still tough to do that, to focus on one particular thing for me. But um, yeah, 13, 14, like I really started being interested in things and then not being afraid to try them on my own. I
Mm-hmm.
think for a lot of my childhood, the one thing that my parents wanted me to focus on was baseball. I quit that when I was like 13 or 14, and then I was like
Mm-hmm.
free to do whatever I wanted. And I wanted to play music, so I got a guitar, and I learned they call them the church chords, like what is it, G, C, E minor, and D. Like I learned those, and I ripped on those for a couple years and didn't learn anything new. But um,
I mean, people
yeah,
have gotten by
music's
on
been
three
great.
chord, let alone four. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
I had four, and
Yeah.
I had them on lockdown for a long time. But yeah, man, music has been a really great part of my life. It's kind of on the back burner right now, but I love my instruments. I can't wait to have my own place, my own house to store them.
A few of the DGN staff are musicians. Have you been able to sit in on any of those little jam sessions?
Dude, those guys rip. Like AJ Risley is like a jammer, a legitimate jammer, and he's got his amp on tour. He's got his electric guitar on
I
tour.
think we're just
Uh,
gonna have to have we're gonna have to have a super jam here at the
dude,
shop. Week of OTB
they're in.
Open. I'm calling it right now.
They're in, and
Sunday night,
Cam is a
we're gonna
ridiculous
shut the
jam.
place down.
Yes, yes, I'm there. I am so there because there are there's like 4 or 5 guys that are legitimately good musicians. Like Evan is a good
Yeah.
guitar player. Cam was in like glam rock bands that used to dress up and play like shows. Like he rips drums, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all just like patient too. I was never that good at jamming. Like I always played so much by myself, and I kind of gravitated more towards like folk guitar and like bluegrass. So I just like
Mm-hmm.
kind of played, country music to myself. Um, but playing with those guys is fun, but it definitely is daunting because they're like way ahead of me in regards to like song arsenal and like what stuff they know. And but
Mm-hmm.
there's so many good dudes on tour. I mean, you've met them.
It's an awesome crew that's producing disc golf from week to week, from the players to the staff to the
Hmm.
operations crew. You know, it's a pretty amazing group that's got going on. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I won't keep you for super long here, but tell
Hmm.
me a little bit now as we turn towards the rest of the year. What are you looking forward to? Is it going to be? You said that was kind of a fill-in role for that lead
Hmm.
commentary. Any plans to do that any more throughout the year, or is it still more of like the standby situation?
Yeah, so I think this year, because I have the luxury of being on the road, they're going to use me a lot in the on course role.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm doing all of the silver events, which are now 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those are in the booth, like I did there. Some of them are remote, which is it's annoying and like very tough to do
Mm-hmm.
when you don't get to sit next to your co-host. But I'm doing all
Mm-hmm.
those. I'm the guinea pig for that. And then, yeah, just a lot of commentary. I think I'm the second most scheduled commentator behind Terry.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing way more stuff than Terry. Terry just does the play by play. I'm kind of doing a little everything. But the thing I'm most looking forward to is the other part of my job is producing. I get to eventually start producing content outside of
Mm-hmm.
commentating. We've just had some issues with infrastructure and like kind of a bottleneck of work. Like videographers and editors are already bogged down with a lot of stuff right now. And the
Mm-hmm.
shows that I'm contracted to do are in the pipeline, but we're just waiting until I can start shooting them with people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm doing 3 shows. One of them is my podcast, Flight Diary, is going to come back, and I'm going to kind of start that one over again, which is just kind of letting the players dive really deep into nostalgia and just letting them kind of dive into their life before they got way into disc golf, which is fun for me. And then the other one is Level Up, which is an instructional series I did with Discraft. We're partnering with the tour to do 12 more
Mm-hmm.
episodes of that. And then the third one I'm very excited about. We're doing 5 episodes of it. It's a passion project that me and AJ Risley like talked about it like 6 years ago in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
called Catch, and it's going to be a video podcast, but it's going to be like uh, just trying to get the players into a very informal, relaxed setting and play catch with them in a beautiful place with a disc that tells a story. Hopefully, like I can
Mm.
source some really old ones and we can talk about where disc golf was at the time. And then I can like
Cool.
ask some kind of intimate questions. And the first season is going to be me just playing catch with all of my favorite catch players, pretty much. Like I cannot wait for this. And to me, this show, if it goes well, if it's produced the way I want it produced, can
Mm-hmm.
open up and I can then begin my quest to start getting the old heads to come back and we can start
Mm-hmm.
really diving into disc golf history and giving because the disc golf network doesn't have a lot. We had Roots of Flight, which was a podcast that we're not doing anymore. But if we could
Mm-hmm.
have like a really cool place for the history of the game to be showcased to people, that's like a goal of mine given and achieved. So yeah, I'm very excited to get into producing. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that to me is something that I'm extremely excited about.
No, that's a lot of stuff to look forward to, and to me, it's like just like I enjoy doing these interviews for that same reason. It's
Hmm.
just learning about people that we care about, learning more about
Hmm.
players, and why they're motivated the way they are, and the catch angle is really
Yeah.
interesting because that's one of the most special things that happens during tournament week, right?
Hmm.
Is everyone's done playing or it's in between rounds or whenever it is, the tournament's over, the
Hmm.
tournament's still going, but there's opportunities when the weather's good and the parking lot's open and you've got Paige or James or
Yep.
so give us your list. What's your quick top three? Who
My,
and not to
okay.
spoil your programming, but I know
Yeah.
that's watching Paige throw, watching Simon throw a catch disc is
Hmm.
pretty awesome.
Yeah. And to me, it comes down to who would make good television to start. And I
Hmm.
think of the show. This show is very closely tied to Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
Same concept. Like the conversations that you have with someone when you're playing catch with them, for some
Hmm.
reason, always is different. It's always different than any other setting that you play catch in. For some reason, or that you interact with people in, because I don't know, it just puts them in this very like vulnerable place. They're very relaxed, and you can get them to talk about some really interesting things. So first and foremost for me is Big Germ. He
Okay.
has so much to say, but he is so hilarious to play catch with because I mean
Mm-hmm.
he's got a very deep bag of tricks, and he is so fun to play catch with. But then also, like, I don't think he gets asked enough serious questions. I think he
Mm.
gets kind of like crapped on by his co-hosts, and they don't give him a lot of room to. Not to say that that's terrible, but I think Germ is a very thoughtful person, and I want
Mm-hmm.
that to come out more. So he's. I'm going to try to get him on, hopefully for the pilot. But then, I mean, I have so many. I mean, Paige is another one. She loves playing catch, and she always
Yep.
is like having a time of her life. Seppo Paiu from Finland, that guy, I've had some wonderful games of catch with him out in like the forests of Estonia, and I would love to relive that and shoot an episode in Europe.
There's a few
Caleb,
Seppo fastbacks floating around the Pro Tour a
hmm
lot. Those are good flyers.
that's why I love him. Like he put
Yeah.
his name on a fastback. That's my guy.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Juliana Korver, I would love to freestyle with her and like talk to her about her transition more in depth. And, she is such a brilliant person and so vibrant if you can get her out of her shell. She's very shy.
Mm-hmm.
And freestyle does that, and frisbee does that. So I think she would be wonderful to get on the show. But then it's like eventually I want John Kirkland, I want Stork, I want all the people that laid a big foundation. There's a story. Crazy John Brooks got like hundreds of thousands of dollars from Bud Light back in the 70s or 80s to go
Right.
freestyle all over the world. And where's that? Where is that in the disc
Where's
golf
that
world?
documentary?
I know. And I've only heard this from freestyle heads back in the day that know
Okay.
all the stories. So to me, there are gaps in the history of our sport
Mm-hmm.
that are written in books,
Yep.
wonderful books. I'm reading Chain of Events by Jim Palmieri right now. But I want them to be made in a digestible way that people want to hear about, which is hard. Because in a world where watching somebody make a smash burger on a flat grill gets more views than someone teaching you how to change a flat tire or something, like the
Mm-hmm.
valuable stuff doesn't necessarily get the same interest as something that's bait, that kind of bait strategy. So I want to find a way to make people really think history of our sport is cool, and I think that's going to be a cool platform to explore.
Well, it's nice that the Disc Golf Network wants to propel that story and
Yeah.
filling in that history because, again, it's the foundation of what we're doing, right?
Mhm.
And having all those important names who are still part of the PDGA, who are still
Mhm.
tournament directors, who are still doing things on the regional level,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Everyone can be involved. That's the thing that I like about it is I can get anybody involved because that's like the foundation of what we do. Like the original frisbees were just made to play catch with. That's it. There's no
Hmm.
other purpose for what they were made for when they were being sold for 59 cents. Um, that to me is a special thing, and I think we can tell some cool stories. And I don't know, man. I want people to get a good perspective when they get into disc golf, especially late. I want them to realize how rich our history is and how cool it is to start out as a counterculture game that was this
Hmm.
little secret world. But we all became so passionate about it that we want everyone to know about it. So before you complain about how something isn't the way you want it to be in the way disc golf is, look
Hmm.
back and see how far we've come. So hopefully we can fill in some gaps with that. We'll see.
That's cool. Okay. Well, Brian, I know it's getting late. I know you got a busy couple days ahead of you, so I'll let you go with after you tell me what's your favorite hole at Delwood, Canyons at Delwood.
Delwood, I would say for
Shout out
short.
Delwood.
Big shout out Delwood. Four short is very fun. Throwing a big mid down the hill towards the
Hmm.
water. I think, or six long is a super daunting hole. But yeah,
No, I
four
guess
is
I've
just
seen
the
it. I
scenic.
guess I've seen it mostly in the tournament layout, which kind of
Oh yeah,
mixes up the
one,
order a little bit.
two.
But I know the one you're talking about through the gap down to the grassy field and then
Yeah, that's the
across the
one that I
stream.
love the most.
It's an awesome shot. Yeah.
So fun. You can empty your bag on that hole, especially if the creek is down. Otherwise, you're spending money at Sean's shop getting a new disc. But
Hey,
Yeah.
there's worse places to spend it though.
Oh man, I will give that guy whatever money he needs, man. He's a great guy, and he has completely changed the landscape out there, and he's gotten so many people passionate about disc golf. So it's people like him, doing it themselves and making something happen and empowering other people to make something happen that keeps disc golf going. I mean, the tour helps out, but we'd be nothing without the passion from the local clubs. Doing all the dirty work that doesn't get enough recognition. So, yeah, I mean, man, there's so many movers and shakers in this game, and I hope we can find a way one day to give them more time in the spotlight. That's for sure.
Well, you're telling the stories that I think people want to hear, so I think eventually we're just gonna have to interview everybody, right?
Let's do it. I'm down. Let's do it, Greg. One step at
All
a
right.
time.
That's right. All right, Jonesboro is next. Mr. Earhart, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Of course. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be the one getting questions asked to for once. So this is nice.
Hey, it was I had a good time. I hope you did too.
Right on, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Look forward to seeing you out here in California.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. We'll be in a new vehicle. We're getting into a company RV that's been sitting around for a while. It's not brand new, but it's bigger than the van, and I think the van's going to be eventually up for sale at some point. We're looking to
Moving
buy a
on up. I
condo at
like
some
it.
point. We're trying. I have some really really big dreams right now, and I finally am starting to realize that they're possible. And obviously one step ahead, ahead of the other, but we're close. So some cool things happening in the future.
All right, we'll give my best to the CEO of vending.
Sounds good. I will, man. Take care, Greg.
All right. All right. Good night. Bye
Bye.
bye. All right, that was Brian Earhart. This has been Evening Round with Greggy Biscuits. Thank you, Stanley, for helping out on the ones and twos. And tune in next time. We're going to have a lot of content coming up for OTB Open, so stay tuned.